Hi guys, so I wanted to make this quick update. I'm looking at two dates here, July the 27th and August the 3rd, both of which are Fridays. Now, in this scene here, we see George Bush with the reddish hue on his face, which could indicate the blood moon, which takes place on July 27th. In connection with that, when George Bush dances across the classroom in the beginning of this frame, we see 10, 10, 3, and well, wasn't quick enough there. Get that again. There we go. 3 and 4, so 10, 10, 3 and 4 is 27. Obviously, I've already pointed that out, but I'm reiterating it for a purpose, so please stick with me. So again, that points us to another 27, and if we connect that with the reddish hue on his face in the first scene, that could point us to the blood moon on July 27th. In this scene with Obama, we also have this kind of reddish marking on Obama's cheek here as well, which could signal a blood moon eclipse. It looks like it's at full stage with the Earth's shadow covering the moon completely and the red hue around the edge of the moon there. So that could be another indication to July 27th, the blood moon. We go into this scene and we've got the emphasis on the red apple, which again could point to the blood moon on July 27th. I'm going to put that here, but I'm going to come back to that. Then we have more emphasis on the apple down here. Again, connection to the blood moon. We have the letter C, the crescent moon, and the tsunami wave all in one image, 3 images in one, and the number 15 attached to it. 15 could be the 15th lunar day, which again is July 27th. The L down here could represent a 7 backwards, or upside down rather, which is obviously July, or could reference July. The LC together could combine as lunar calendar, or it could have other references, as well as being an L and a 7, just like the C, tsunami, crescent moon. This one has 3 meanings as well, which could be 3 a.m. And 3 a.m. is when I think that the tsunami is going to come, when everyone's sleeping, basically. So on that day, if I'm looking at this scene all connected together before the apple splits, then it seems to be saying the lunar 15, July 27th, during the blood moon, a tsunami possibly created in connection with a volcano, which could affect the Big Apple. One thing I didn't do is pull up the image that I did a while back, where I emphasized the contrast of this scene, and what you can tell is that the shadow of the apple down here isn't a shadow at all, it's actually a reflection, and a reflection obviously connects you to water, and obviously from Obama's perspective this is a tsunami wave, so I'm thinking the Big Apple is also affected by water, as well as the UK possibly being 17 foot underwater. So if I'm looking at a volcanic event that could affect both the Big Apple, New York or the East Coast, and the UK, then cumbre, vieja comes to mind, which again converts into an actual quadruple meaning for the LC, which could be La Cumbre and then attached to Obama's forehead, vieja. So there's a lot of layered meanings there, four layers of meaning just there. But that's kind of the scenarios that I'm expecting to happen in relation to the East Coast and the UK on that day. But that's not all, because on that day we also have, well, actually, let me cover this first. This appears to be the depiction of the tsunami coming in on July 27th. Obviously, this is New York. You can tell the way that they've done the Statue of Liberty and this little piece of iceberg here. It's actually a time reference, which is 3 o'clock, which again is the time that I'm thinking the tsunami is going to come in when everyone's sleeping. So be especially cautious on July 27th at 3 o'clock in the morning. Looking out for a tsunami that's going to affect the East Coast. I'll be looking out for one that affects the UK, of course. So the warnings there, looks like that's what's going to happen. Obviously, with the reflection of this little light down here, that gives reference to the moon again. So a lot of emphasis on the moon during that time. On the same day, I believe that Iran is going to block the Straits of Hormuz. I'm going to play this frame because it appears that Iran comes out with their missiles to block the Straits of Hormuz. That's why we see Osama bin Laden. So we've also got the fire on his chin, which obviously, as I was just talking about, if Cumbre Vieja does erupt, then it would connect. We've got the blood moon there. We've got a representation of a volcano possibly erupting with fire upside down, which would mean the fire is moving upwards. And then we have this reference to Iran and missiles on a ship approaching a very narrow gap, which would be the Straits of Hormuz, in my opinion. After that, it moves on to showing the oil dripping slowly into the ocean, which to me says the oil has slowed down, and that would happen if Iran did block the Straits of Hormuz. Following after that, have I gone backwards? No, so that's all happening at the same time. The tsunami's coming in, the volcanoes erupting, Iran's moving out into the Straits of Hormuz. And because of all those events taking place, sorry, just trying to find where I want it in the video. Or actually, maybe I've already moved it onto a tab. No, I didn't. Alright, so because the Straits of Hormuz are blocked, what we then see come on, hurry up. Sorry about this. What we then see is uranium, which obviously could be a connection to Iran. And we see markets plunge, which could be a connection to the fact that Iran has blocked the Straits of Hormuz, slowing down the oil, which would definitely affect the markets. And then we see the words war coverage coming in, which obviously would happen if Iran blocked the Straits of Hormuz. America has already said that, that would be an act of war, basically. It essentially isn't, but oil is so important to these people that it would be. So there you have, on July 27th, the blood moon occurring, possibly a Meteotsunami occurring, like we heard about in the news recently, affecting New York and the UK. But in my opinion, it looks like it's connected with a volcano. The only volcano I can think of that would affect the East Coast, New York and the UK would be Cumbre Vieja. At the same time, or maybe not exactly at the same time, but on the same day, Iran moves out to block the Straits of Hormuz with their missiles, and that could be in connection with them announcing something to do with their uranium program. Maybe they've started uranium enrichment and block the Straits of Hormuz, which would be a double reason for an attack to be launched on Iran. So that's where we get the war coverage coming in. And then obviously immediately after we see the war coverage in the boy's eyes, in my opinion, after Iran's blocked the Straits of Hormuz, we see the attack launched on what looks like a mosque. Could be a symbolic reference, as I've said, of Islam, of Iran in Syria or Iran directly. In this reference, it could be they launched the attack on Iran directly, which results in maybe some collateral damage of some kind, a mosque or something symbolic maybe hit in Iran, and Iran responds, which is where we see the missiles coming out. And one thought that I'm having is, are the missiles that Iran use nuclear? Because obviously after that, in connection with the Middle East, we see this, but this could be a representation of two scenes unfolding at the same time. The volcanic eruption, in terms of maybe Cumbre Vieja, and the death that's taken place in the Middle East, both happening around the same time. So there's a lot of cross-referencing in this video, which I think may be connected. And then we have more red down here, which again I think connects to the blood moon, particularly because you have this highlight of light on his face. You can see that some of it's in shadow, and you've got the blood down here. Take those two things together, you can put together the blood moon. So all of this is occurring on July 27th, according to this interpretation. At the same time, July 27th is going to be a crazy day if this is all true. At the same time, again, there appears to be a reference to some form of eclipse. We've got the yin yang symbol, which directs us towards an Asian influence like China or North Korea. And then we have this dark circle in here, which obviously could be the yin or the yang. I can't remember which one it is, but it could also be an interpretation of an eclipse that appears to be just ending. At that time, we have more red circles, which could indicate eclipse as well, and then the green, which again could be in connection with the eclipse is over. And now this is happening on the Korean Peninsula, where we see tanks moving in, possibly Chinese or North Korean, but they appears to be moving over the demilitarized zone. The girl is a representation of South Korea coming out with the peace flag. Obviously, we know that North Korea and South Korea have been discussing peace, and on July 27th, well, this is too much, I didn't even think of this before I said it, but it's about to connect even more. On July 27th, the North Koreans are expected to return. I think it's 150 of the US dead that died in the Korean War over there. So not only do we have a possible reference to the eclipse and Chinese or North Koreans moving across the demilitarized zone, with South Koreans running out, peace flag, no nuclear, all love. On that same day, there's the expected return of the US dead, and we have then the reference to the skeletons. In the background, we have the fireworks going off, which could be what's going on in the Middle East. Again, it could be like that double kind of frame reference. While this is going on, that's going on in the background. So a lot of things literally going on in the background. So there's a lot of things I'm kind of looking at and thinking July 27th seems to be a day where the Middle East and the Korean Peninsula basically go up in flames, particularly associated with North Korea, Iran, South Korea, Israel, the United States. I think that's all the countries. And then this came to me as well when I was thinking about everything going in a line, and what we see in the boy's eyes being a reflection of what he would be seeing on the TV. The way everything is scrolling across is like it does on the news at the bottom of the screen when they've got the scroll bar going across telling you all the headlines. So that kind of tells me that this person, this boy here, is watching the news, and this is the TV screen, and basically it's chaos. That's the word I can make out. I can't make out what this word is, but I know that this word says chaos, and that the boy is in turmoil. Obviously, if New York has been affected by a tsunami, the UK has been affected by a tsunami, the Middle East has, started war in reference to Iran and the Straits of Hormuz, and the Korean Peninsula has gone up in flames in reference to North Korea and possibly China moving across the demilitarized zone, then everything would be chaos, and that would be what is on TV, driving people pretty much insane. So that appears to be July 27th. And then there's August the 3rd. So at the same time as George Bush is showing us the number 27 with the 10, 10, 3 and 4, his hands are also showing us the numbers 3 and 4 when they are in front of the house, which is on fire, and the hangman. You can't see the hangman in this frame, but I'll make it a bit bigger for those of you with smaller screens. Obviously it's in darkness, but you can take my word for it. The hangman is back there. So what that appears to be saying to me is that something on the 3rd and something on the 4th, and the 3rd of August is one of my watch days, particularly taken from the house, which is, if you look very closely, I'm not going to do it in this video. If you want to do it yourselves, you can, but if you look very closely at the house, look at the bottom line, you'll see that the bottom line isn't drawn in one connection with the rest of the house. It's drawn separately, which tells me that it doesn't, in the double layer meaning, it doesn't form part of what they're trying to say, which is the letter A. And then attached to it, you've got the flame, which eerily is shaped in the number 3. And for me, that says August the 3rd. again, in this particular frame, you've got George Bush with his hands showing the number 3 right in front of the house, which is not just a house, it's a missile as well, which is where I think that after the war begins on July 27th, a week later, I think North Korea or one of the others, Russia, Iran, China, they launch a missile on the west coast. I don't know if it's into the Pacific Ocean, like North Korea said they do, said they would do, generating a tsunami. If they did, then it would affect most likely Hawaii and Kilauea. Kilauea could erupt in a spectacular fashion, generating an earthquake and tsunami, which would affect the west coast. So after the east coast has already been affected by a tsunami on the 27th, the west coast is affected a week later on August the 3rd. More interpretation, more backup for that, because when I look for one interpretation, I look for things in the video to, reinforce that. Is the other interpretation I've already come up with the other representation of a missile, which also doubles as a penis. I know some of you like to point that out, but I'm well aware of it. Again, Friday, the F, drawn darker on this side and a darker line, lighter on this side, but connected all together, you've got an A and then the 3. Friday, August the 3rd. So not only could the house be saying not Friday, but August the 3rd, and be a representation of a missile, this one is also saying August the 3rd, or more specifically Friday, August the 1st, and is also the representation of a missile. So it definitely appears that on Friday, August the 3rd, there's going to be a missile launch of some kind. So I'm mourning for those 2 dates. When we come back to this frame here, in association with Friday, August the 3rd, I started looking at these vines and leaves on the background and how I've already made the interpretation that the rabbit is looking directly at this figure, which if you count along 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 is the 8th figure, which if you're looking at that in months would be August. The 2 leaves that extend above his head kind of represent rabbit ears as well, which gives you a direct connection to the rabbit on the wall. But also, if you're thinking of this as the 8th figure and you're thinking August, then that would be August the 2nd. The message for me is August the 2nd, go underground. Because Friday, if you can see the way that this vine comes down and then comes across, that's the F. The 3rd is the date of some catastrophe. And when I was looking at these 4 figures here and the way that they're positioned, they reminded me of the icicles on the wall and the way that they're positioned. And that reminded me of the pins on the map and the way that they're positioned. And I know that the pins on the map represent disasters that have happened in the past, but I think they also represent the number of possibly nuclear launches. That's just an interpretation, but I think that's what it could be representing. I definitely think it's saying Friday, August the 2nd, go underground, and then Friday the 3rd of August with this 3rd leaf up here, but within the same like little circle of vine leaves. Friday, August the 3rd, the vine leaf goes up and comes down and connects to this guy who connects to that guy, and then you've got these last 2 and they make the last 4, which obviously I think corresponds with the map and the icicles. So more connection. Can't remember what I was actually going to show on this frame. Oh yeah, that was the icicles, sorry. So yeah, moving on to this scene. And then another connection with Friday, August the 3rd, and again, multiple layers of meaning. I hope you guys have been able to stick with me for this video. I know there's a lot of information coming out. Obviously, we've got the 2 seeds, the 1 seed, the 8 that forms in the middle, and that I've connected to the 21st of August, which is the date Hawaii received statehood. We've got a bomber in the video who's from Hawaii, so that tells you something connected with Hawaii. But unlike the interpretation for Cumbre vieja on the 27th of August, this one being the 3rd of August, because again, I just saw it today, which is the 1, 2, 3, not just makes the number 21 when connected together, but also makes the number 3. the 8 in the middle stands as the representation of August, so the 3rd of August, and then again with the shadow of the roots, you get the letter F here, Friday the 3rd of August. So again, there's a multiple layers of connection that are showing you, or showing me at least, July 27th and August the 3rd. Step outside the classroom. And I've already done this before, but it was an interpretation for April because I was too short-sighted. I didn't look further than the other A, which is August in the calendar months. Upside down, the number 3. You can see that pretty clearly. And then you've got the A upside down. The end, the tail of the 3 intersects across the middle of the A here, so they've done it in a way that this way round it looks like Psalm 23, but when you look at it upside down, it's actually a 3 and an A, which could connect to August the 3rd. On that day, I'm expecting some form of missile launch connected with a volcano, an earthquake, and a tsunami. But not only that, the light in this scene as it evolves, we see the lights go out on this tower. Not only that, sorry, but when we go back to the Psalm 23 on the wall, it will play. I think I've paused and moved it too much. But basically, the light is above the number 3, which again points me to 3 o'clock in the morning. And then this last scene here, I think what we're seeing here is not only an interpretation of constellations, but the way the Antichrist figure comes up and blows the fire out. I think that's also representing a volcanic eruption of some kind. Sorry, I've got to refresh it. It's been held too long. I say of some kind, but I think it's Kilauea. The fire, I think that's connected to the volcano, the representation of the volcano, because after that, what we see is pieces of this cave-like ice structure collapsing, which points me to an earthquake. Here in this scene, you can see the number 9 is written on the ground in the ice, and the Kali figure is stamping on the ground, indicating earthquake. That's a magnitude 9 earthquake. Massive. That's why we see the fish jumping out of the water into the boat. It's well known that marine animals of all kinds abandon the water when there's danger inside of it. There's been many documented pieces of evidence that show animals leaving the water during an earthquake. There's even a species of fish in a river that jump out of the water when like large boats and stuff go by. It's a fear response. So that's pretty much my interpretation. I don't know how long this video is. I'll find out when I end it. But just for a quick reiteration, for those of you guys who managed to stick with me to the end of this, Friday, July 27th, blood moon, possible eruption of cumbre, vieja, whether that's natural or man-made, not sure. Tsunami, East Coast affected, New York in particular is emphasized in this video, and the UK with the pound coin, possibly a representation of 17 foot underwater. Not the whole UK, but at least the coast of where the tsunami comes in. Same day, Iran moving out to block the Straits of Hormuz with missiles. Israel or USA or possibly both launching an attack either on Iran directly or Iran in Syria. Some form of collateral damage, maybe they hit a mosque, maybe something symbolic. Iran responds. that may be nuclear or not. The explosion we see in the video with the mother crying could just be double-layered, meaning this is going on while that's going on in the background. So it could be the volcano that's erupting while this attack is taking place in the Middle East. At the same time, possibly China or North Korea crossing the demilitarized zone, or at least moving towards war with South Korea and the United States, the same day that the United States is expected to receive some of its dead back from North Korea. And then Friday, the 3rd of August, 7 days later, North Korea, possibly, or Iran, China, or Russia, one of the four, launching some form of bomb. Looks like maybe a nuclear bomb, maybe it's the H bomb that they were talking about, into the Pacific or directly at the west coast, or at Kilauea. An eruption from Kilauea generating an earthquake, possibly magnitude 9, a tsunami coming in, and at the same time moving on into, maybe on the 3rd of August at the same time, or moving on into the 4th of August, a submarine attack which causes the lights to go out, or the lights go out at the same time as a submarine attack. So all of that was pretty dire. I feel very tired and drained, but I think it was worth pointing out all those different references, from the different references to the blood moons, the 27th, the 3s and the 4s in connection with August, Hawaii and New York and London, the Middle East, and how everything in this video, although not shown to us in a completely linear timeline, does appear to connect. And the 2 dates that I can see them connecting to are August the 3rd and July 27th. So you guys, with that, have a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and may the Heavenly Father bless you.